There we are. Hey, folks. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to So Chatty. I'm your host, So Many Games, aka Matty, and I am here again on another Saturday with another fantastic panel of guests. I am stoked to be sitting here with just amazing individuals who for some reason agreed to be here. Hey, I question their sanity, but nah. And yeah, I say stupid stuff sometimes. So what? Anyway, my first guest, I'm a big fan of his and his channel. I've had three of his compatriots on the show already. And I finally got the man himself right here, right now, Castle Max Steven. Steven, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, glad to.
I love you, man. My next guest, she is one of the personal favorites of mine as an artist in general, but especially as a RPG character artist. Her style is it's unique, fantastic. When you see her art, you know it's hers, and it's beautiful. She goes by 65th Victor. Sam, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I'm so happy you are here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I love that. I love it. Wait, that excitement will die down. It's okay. And my final guest, he is a writer of modules, a creator of RPGs. He is a map drawer. He's just a fantastic human being. He goes by Halfling Caravan. Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
Good. It's kind of a little nuts here in Sydney. It's midday for me on Sunday, and like 8 o'clock for you guys back there.
The future? So.
Hot, 33 degrees C. So that's what, up like 90, 95 minimum.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's almost summertime there. So
yeah. So I love seeing North Americans prepping for summer with roasted food and heavy woolen clothing. And I'm thinking the closest thing I want to a roast is like it was cooked 6 months ago and put in a fridge, so it'll be nice and cold.
Yeah. So I know.
Yeah, white Christmases involve sand, not snow.
I like that. I don't mind that. I like the beach. As long as I don't have to go in the water. I'm not a big fan of that.
Same.
Too
many terrible things out there.
Yeah. And
I don't trust the depths.
And if you grew up where I did, or part of when I did, in Southern California, they would close the beaches down off of the coast of Orange County a lot of days out of the year because of what? Human waste. So no thanks. No. Ain't doing that. Haven't been in the ocean since I was 12. Plus, look at this skin, folks. Like, yeah.
There is a moon tan going on.
I burn fast. I burn quick. Anyway, so when I get folks on this show, one of my favorite topics to start off with is, because this really is about bringing people together from the TTRPG community, I like to talk about and ask about the introductions that people had to tabletop role-playing games. And so as I'm a gentleman, I'll admit it, my mama raised me to be a proper man. Whatever that means today, I don't know.
I'm a scoundrel, so I'll balance out the scales.
But I did, I on a random tangent, I did finally understand the term gender normative today. After listening to a question from my mother-in-law. So that was fun. But I won't get into that because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But yeah, that was really interesting. I'm new to a lot of this stuff, folks. I'm an old man, okay? Uh, but as a gentleman, I would like to ask Sam to go first. Sam, what was your introduction to tabletop role playing games?
Okay, when I was probably 14, I had a close friend who would come up to visit occasionally. He lived in Florida, and we were at a bookstore one day, and we saw third edition books.
Okay.
And it was just, we were big, like Lord of the Rings had just come out and stuff, so fantasy was kind of a big thing. And so we picked them up, bought all of them, but I bought them for the art,
Okay.
which is kind of on brand. And but despite reading them, I never actually played it until like 3 years ago. I played 5th edition, and it was with the same friend actually who I had kind of lost contact with and started talking to again. And he was about to run a 5th edition D&D game on Roll20, and I was like, I want to do it too.
Oh.
And so yeah, I actually only just started playing officially 3 years ago. So
Okay. Well,
and as such, I've still only played 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I have not played any other systems yet.
You aren't missing out.
That's okay. I literally started with like AD&D first edition. I played a little bit of second edition, really just like some Dark Sun games, and I ended up skipping over everything else to 5th, and I'm fine. I'm happy. 5th is fantastic. So
Yeah.
I love it.
you know, I have nothing against those other systems. I can say that when you compare like 5th and first, I'm not gonna drop the F-bomb, but I'm gonna say forget first. It's awful. Oh God, so much. No. So you're not missing much. You're not missing much.
Back in the day, it was more what you made it, though. I think.
No, that's
because I remember
very
playing
true.
way back when, and we played 50% by the rules, and the rest kind of what made sense. Something happened in our psyche, and people were like playing more strictly by the rules. And if you look at first nowadays, it looks like hot garbage, but nobody played it that way, I don't think. Right?
Well, my
Resonate with anybody?
my DM was very rules oriented to the point
Really?
where like we had to keep track of every little effing thing that we carried. And I mean, oh my God, it was so stupid. Oh my, it was awful. It just felt like so much work, sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was still D&D, so it was still fantastic. But
Yeah, it was so awesome.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a big shift in focus. The narrative became more kind of the centerpiece of the game, right?
yeah, I definitely think so, and I think it's I don't know. There's
That's the big pull for me anyway. That was the story.
yeah, because there is so much to tell. There's so many ways to do it too. And I think a lot of the adaptations of different storylines or different like video games that are being adapted to be able to play, like use 5th edition rules to play them, I think just shows how universally how universal that this current edition is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they really nailed it, I think. For that reason alone, you don't really have to care about the minutia that you used to, right? And characters have a lot more abilities, but the rules are also a lot more streamlined than 3rd edition. They've really kind of struck a perfect balance with 5th.
yeah, and that took a lot of years, took a lot of work, a lot of playing, a lot of trial and error, but yeah, they definitely hit the nail on the head, at least in my opinion. So, but Sam, so you've only been playing for a few years, but when did you I know that because you are a fantastic artist and you do great character art, and fantasy art. Uh, was that what am I trying to say? Was that genre of art like always a favorite of yours?
Um, in a way, yeah. I've always drawn. I kind of started with drawing Peter Pan when I was little, and then when I discovered Ocarina of Time, I did tons of Zelda art. When I was like 11, I would stay up
Awesome.
all night drawing Zelda comics. Um, so I mean, yeah,
Okay.
pointy-eared people have usually featured in my art for one reason or another. Um, but then when I started playing D&D, I was just so like inspired because I was part of it,
Yeah.
and so it became so much more interesting, and I wanted to draw it more than I might like fan art, so
Awesome.
because it was mine.
Wow. Hey folks, welcome. Seeing some people pop in. And
Just real quick, you talking about drawing Zelda art made me think that when I was a kid, I completely forgot this memory until you just said that. I think I had a very similar experience. I had the original Zelda on Nintendo, and I loved it so much. I was probably 6 or 7 that my dad would buy me big poster boards, and I would draw maps and make them go on adventures. But I would draw a map. We had a pretty big, like, we lived in New Mexico, so we had a lot of property. So I draw essentially our property, but the fantasy version of it. We would go on adventures outside. So long before I knew what D&D was, it was over there is the swamp, and those 3 trees over there, that's the haunted forest, and it was super
That's the
cool.
purest thing I've ever heard.
but it's so. Oh wow! I really have never thought about that either. About how, like, especially that first Zelda, the way it was set up, it very much like going through a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zelda's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
On that front, like it's the one that heaps of people could get into, and it's way early. And yeah, I mean that's I think the two have kind of talked to each other over time as well, right? Because
when the new game came out, when Breath of the Wild came out, I know we're supposed to be talking about tabletop role playing.
Oh, it's fine.
When Breath of the Wild came
Zelda's
out,
a gateway drug.
It is. So I found myself, you can like customize the clothes. So I made Link look like my D&D character. And then like, rather than actually play the game, I'm just like walking around like a ranger hitting everything with my bow, like, so
breaking those jars.
like bringing Dungeons and Dragons into my video. I haven't beaten the game because I'm spending so much time pretending to be Matty in Zelda.
Lovely game. So wonderful.
Oh my god, it's so good.
That's
so good.
that's probably how I would end up playing it. I'm not a
It's so fun.
I'm not a video game person.
I'm not either, only Zelda, but anyway.
Literally the only game I really enjoyed ever playing was that first Legend of Zelda game. That everything else is just kind of like, well, I mean, other than this computer game that was DOS based from like the mid 90s called Master of Magic, look it up, it's amazing. You can get it on GOG.com. So
Sorry.
it's fantastic. Andrew, let's go ahead and pull you in to the conversation, sir.
Sure.
So, why don't you talk to us about your introduction to tabletop role playing?
So me and D&D is kind of an easy introduction and just totally out of the blue. I think it was about 14, 15. And one of the English teachers at my high school is obviously clearing out something, their garage, a desk, a storeroom at the school, and just rocked up with this random pile of D&D books. There was like a 2nd edition player's handbook. There was a Fiend Folio from First Ed. There was a DMG from First Ed. I'm sitting there and going, I know that thing behind you there, Matty. There was a paper basic D&D rule set that only went for like the first 4 levels.
Okay.
So there's this random grab bag of stuff, and me and a couple of other kids just basically told, here, look, have it. Like, I don't care. And we went, okay. And everyone else looked at the big fat DMG and the couple of others, and kind of went, ah, and I went, ooh.
Right.
And so I became the DM, and I've been a DM since. I can count probably the games that I've played in on both hands, total.
Wow.
But the number of games and sessions that I've run is probably up around about 300.
Okay.
Or more.
Wow.
Yeah, so for like 5 years, me and a couple of other mates at our local game store here in Sydney, we did something that was convention sized, but home campaign at the same time. So we had 40 players, 6 DMs running 2 sessions for 3 hours once a month for 5 years.
Wow.
Which is a huge game.
Yeah.
So there's guys who were DMs all the time, and we would just run meta plots. So you would run a session, and the way that it kind of worked, which was cool, was we'd sit around maybe a week in advance, or a bit in advance, and just go, so what are you planning to do next month or next session? And we'd go, I'm planning to move out of this city, and they're going to find some stuff over here, and they're going to do some dungeon delving type stuff over there. Oh, that might be my kids yelling in the background. Apologies.
Hey, it's okay.
They're watching The Good Dinosaur and apparently enjoying it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what would happen is that someone else would go, oh, wait a second. I did something like 3 months ago just near there, and it involved this group of NPCs that the players don't necessarily know about. We should tie them into your thing. And so people are just kind of cross-linking all their like ad hoc modules into these great big long meta plots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, one of the meta plots that no one discovered before we terminated the world was I had illithids using jewelry to do backdoors into people's heads and then experimenting on the population to try figure out how they could take over. So there was a whole mission which was the result of one of those experiments. So the experiment was there was a group of quite powerful players, and the illithids wanted to know if the Assassin's Guild could take out anyone. So they got hold of the Assassin's Guild, told the Assassin's Guild through their kind of mind control backdoor entry to attack and nominate the players with death cards. And the players then went, wait a second, why have we been marked for death? They didn't know. They went through, they slaughtered the Assassin's Guild, like decimated them totally. Most of the players were like, yay, we killed stuff. And then one dude went, why did any of that happen? And I went, cool question. I'm not telling you. And they went, but what? Rummage through the notes if you want, like ransack the place. You're not going to find out. And they went, okay. And then it took someone a long time before they started going, all the really super weird events are always involved with these really common magic amulets that lots of the nobles and major NPCs have got. What the hell is up with that?
Wow.
And then within kind of 6 months of someone having that realization, due to life stuff mostly, we had to basically just blow up the world because people weren't able to just make the commitment on the running it end and blah, 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 blah. And it's way better to just go, you know what, we're going to end this with a world-crushing apocalypse rather than just kind of going, yeah, so we're not turning up next month. Yeah, bye. Right? Like, that's crap, right? Like, how do you want to end this? You want to, like throw the ring into Mordor. You want to, have the thing just go kabloom, right? Yeah. So we did a big kabloom and yeah, people escaped and ran away, and that was, yeah. And everyone went kind of, okay, well, we ended it well. So that was it. Yeah, that was 5 years of DMing. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened in that. It was very cool.
Wow.
But yeah, maybe 10 games I've played in.
Wow.
Like 25 years. It's scarily that kind of a number. Best part of 25 years, and I've played 10 games myself.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, I think there are definitely people who are very much players. There are definitely people who are very much the DMs of a group or of all their groups, and then there are definitely your jack of all trades who like to dabble in everything. I don't know. I might be talking about myself there, but because
I like to DM, but I like to DM for like 3 weeks. And then I'm done.
I get that.
Definitely more of a player.
I get that. I think I definitely feel as myself as more of a player generally. It's just depending on if I have the story in my brain that I want to tell or something like that. But I get that. I don't know.
I go both ways. As long as I get a little bit of both, I'm happy.
Yeah.
If I go only one for too long, then I start to long for the other. But right now I get to do both weekly. So
and very well. So Steven, we get to see you do this, and we get to see you do both every week. But what was your introduction to tabletop role playing?
Sure, I'll keep it relatively short. I think a lot of people have similar stuff, but for me, my very first game ever was with one of my friend's older brothers who drug us along with him to the library, the public library, where a group of teenagers, and I was like 10 or maybe 11 at the time, were playing Werewolf the Apocalypse, which was maybe a little mature for how old I was, but it was awesome. I loved it to pieces. Immediately afterwards, me and those two brothers continued playing games for a long time. He had the D&D Red Box, so we played that. We made our own Star Trek RPG that we played quite a bit of, which was super fun. You know, at the time I was like 12 or 13. Oof. And then right around then we got the second edition revised books. Me and some other groups of friends, we played that like crazy. And then really we hit our peak around when third edition came out. That's when I was in high school. And third edition, that period between third and 3.5, I played D&D a ridiculous amount, maybe even more than I play now, which is like 3 times a week. But at the time, it was all we did. It was all we thought about. At this time, we sometimes call it the summer of plenty. Me and some old friends who are still friends to this day, you know, so many years on, just played like crazy. And we played everything. We played D&D, but then we branched into the White Wolf games, some other rule systems that we really liked a whole lot. And it was awesome. And then I kind of got into tabletop wargaming, so I kind of got away from D&D for a while.
Yeah.
And then Sean, who you talked to, I think last week, he and I kind of rekindled our love of role playing about a decade ago, and for about a decade, maybe a little more than that, played just like he and I, so just one-on-one games, which is a very different experience and really pretty awesome. And then with 5th edition, just about 2 years ago, we got our significant others involved and some other friends, and we've been going hard on that ever since. So I skipped 4th, but I've played every other edition, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
How do you do, like, when you said it was just you and your buddy playing, would you kind of like take turns DMing, or?
Yeah, usually we would, one of us would DM like a whole story arc, but yeah, we would take turns. I think in general, I think Sean is an incredible player, and so I think it was probably more like 75% I would DM, and Sean would 20, but Sean's a great DM as well.
Yes.
It's a whole different experience when you focus on one person and one person's experience, and I'm not ashamed to admit there were many times where we probably both left like in tears, like, all right, man, I'll see you later.
That's how you know it was good.
Yeah, it can get so intensely personal because you're not trying to like appease a party, and there's not like inter-party stuff going on. Yeah. It was good. Raven. Yeah.
No, that's really true. I find
the chat's got a little bit of edition wars going on too, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, you know, that's always going to come up because there are definitely some strong opinions. There are.
And I've played every edition since first, actually. Played a whole lot. Yeah, which is kind of out there.
And the thing is though, I remember because we were playing 1st edition when like 2nd edition had already come out. It was really like, for the most part, all you could really buy. We had to buy all of our books at the used bookstore kind of thing. And because this was before the internet, folks. Yep. And and my friends were so like adamantly against changing editions. You know, it was like 1st edition was so great, and 2nd edition was so terrible, and you know, honestly, when looking back, there were a lot of merits to 2nd. you know, and there were a lot of flaws with first that I didn't see at the time. You know, you see these things in retrospect.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
But
when you're like one of my buddies who like had 5 milk crates worth of 3.5 edition books, I can understand not wanting to start a new edition when you've got literally 5 milk crates worth of 3.5 ed books at like $50 a pop.
I don't blame those folks either. If I spent that much money, you know, like, oh golly, when I look at how many books came out for third edition, I'm just like, what? That's
that to me was the key issue. It's a good system. I like third edition. I actually pulled out the core books just the other day, put them on my shelf alongside my other older editions, kind of just the cores. And really at its core, I do like it quite a bit. There's a lot of things cool with it. It's a little bit more granular. The rules are a little bit more like, I love the skill system. Flat out, I like the skill system in third edition better, even though it's more complicated and can get broken pretty easy. I like it better than I like fifth editions because your characters can be a little more diverse.
And that is an aspect of fifth edition I think is lacking. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I've talked to other people who maybe have played one and not the other, like so fifth and not played third, or third and not played fifth, there's just like a simple kind of like car analogy, right? So like one is you get like an IKEA cart, right? Like it's a Meccano set. You just build whatever you want out of it. It'll build almost anything. But it's complicated. You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And fifth edition is really just kind of a Dodge Viper, right? Like it's just got engine and it goes straight and it goes fast. Don't ask it to be doing like tight corners at 100 kilometers an hour, right? No. It's a straight, fast, hard, hair blowing in the wind, right? And that's fifth edition, and it's great for that.
You're right.
And third and a half is just that fussy, fiddly thing, which is cool.
Right. And reducing that complexity, I think, made it a lot more accessible for people because, frankly, making a character in third edition, tracking your abilities was kind of challenging for people who weren't like devouring the books, right? With fifth, you can pretty much be like, hey, if it's got a dot, add this. If it doesn't have a dot, add that. You're good to go. Not every time you level. And for those of you who don't know, you used to get skill points you could assign to skills, so you could really kind of more granularly assign what things you wanted your character to be good at,
and your saves track differently based on class, and so did you to hit numbers and all of that fun stuff. And then buying feats, that was the fun one. Buying feats was a big fun one.
They were crazy, and there were a lot more of them, and they were like every 3 levels or something, if I remember right. Like there were a lot, and they stacked. And,
if you're a fighter, you got huge numbers of them because you'd get one for first level, one for second level, one every 3 levels, and then one every 2 levels because you're a fighter. So you're getting so every 2 levels out of every 3, you're getting another feat.
Right.
So a 20th level fighter is getting like 16 feats.
Right.
And then if you're a human, you got an extra one on top of that, which is 17. And there was a lot you could do with that, but it kind of turned into a hot mess by the time you get to a 20th level fighter, because you just kind of walk into a room and go Mulinex.
But I've got to consult my dictionary of feet.
Yeah. Can I use feet 2 with feet 23?
Right.
Yep.
One last thing I loved about third, and let's not dive in on a rules thing, but you might agree with this, Andrew. I miss the old days of having the different armor classes. It was a pain in the ass, but like if you're on the ground,
armor types.
If you're lying down, your armor is only your armor. If you're not wearing armor, you're wearing your, it's just your dex. And if you're caught flat-footed, I really liked that, but they simplified it, and they basically did away with it with advantage, disadvantage stuff.
Yeah, and look, disadvantage, advantage has got some cool stuff about it, but it gives you kind of +5 or -5, and that's about it.
Right.
So from someone designing games point of view, there's not a lot of window. You kind of either like if you throw advantage on something, it's like giving them a +5 weapon. If you give them disadvantage, it's like taking it off them. There's not like that nice little graduated window thing. Like, so to give you an idea, one of the things I did, and I scared a lot of players with kobolds. Heaps of players like would come in and they're like 4th and 5th level characters, and they're thinking kobolds, right? They're like CR quarter. We'll mince them, and suddenly they're all just kind of going, And that's because stuff like cover would give you AC, and then I would use irritating traps. So like lots of people expect that a trap, what it's going to do is it's going to hit your hit points, right? No. Kobolds don't use traps that hit your hit points. Kobolds make you deaf. Kobolds trip you up. Kobolds leave you in a waist-deep puddle of mud. Kobolds cover you in entrails and make you nauseous. Kobold, like improvised crap, they will trip you, tumble you, make you run slower, fill you with mud. They will do all this random stuff, and then 8 of their friends will pop up out of a bush, shoot you, and run. And so this party of 5th level people came into one of these things thinking, oh yeah, we'll take on these kobolds. It'll be cool. And I downed 2 out of a party of 8. And they were level 5s with quarter CR monsters. And then they started playing smart. And then they decimated the kobolds, which is what's supposed to happen, right? But it took them a while to realize, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't just get in my full plate and run straight at the kobold trying to mash it horribly. Maybe kobolds are smarter than this. So yes, I was that kind of bad DM too. It's a very knowing laugh, Matty.
No, it's yeah. Well, you know, I'm a big kobold fan.
What's not to love about kobold?
I may play one on TV. I don't know. But I don't play an atypical kobold though. But this is something that even though I did not play 3rd edition, and I'm not super familiar with the rules, I have been getting little bit more familiar with them as I've been working on a Dragonlance conversion for 5e.
Mm-hmm.
And the reference materials I have are basically, you know, like books from other editions. And, you know, the most recent was the 3.5 rules for it. And
Right.
it's like when I read a rule in that book, I'm like, wait, that sounds funny. Like, I'm going, oh, what does that mean? And I literally have to look up what that rule means in 3rd edition like language as opposed to the 5th edition language I'm used to nowadays. And the more I do this stuff, the more I do this research and everything like that, the more I go, 3rd was interesting. I think there are a lot of positives to be drawn from it, and I understand why people love it. And then, like, instead of playing 5th, they just like move to Pathfinder. I get that, you know, people like having all the options and things like that. But it takes having a lot of books. You have to have all sorts of, you know, someone was telling me they made one character in 3rd edition and ended up like needing 10 books just to make one character or something like that. And I was like,
I think on the whole, 5th edition is just so much better in like all things considered. There were just elements of 3rd that were really cool, but 5th is just they really struck a great balance, I think, for people like me who I'm like, I'm cool to dig through 19 books and I look like Gandalf in the depths of Minas Tirith, like pouring through the lore to build a character. But you know, lots of people don't want to do that, and I think 5th really is just perfect.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Look, as a GM, I found for new players the easiest thing to do with 3rd and a half ed was just go, no, we're just going to use a small set of books because it saves you, saves me. Let's not swamp everyone with a bunch of books. Because frankly, my friend has an encyclopedic knowledge of 3rd edition D&D. Like to this day, you go, hey, wasn't there a feat that does blah? And he goes, oh yeah, that was in the such and such book on page blah. And you're going, check the PDF. How? What? No, you shouldn't recall it that well. And whereas me, I'm just kind of like, okay, so there's a rule about something somewhere. Just get the thing out and show it to me, right? Like I'm not keeping track of this crap. Like just give it to me. What's it say? Okay, cool. We'll do that. So yeah, I tended to set restrict. You know, here's the list of stuff that we're cool with, and don't play with other stuff. We don't need that complication in our lives.
Well, I think that's a good way to go too sometimes. Even in, you know, whatever game you're playing. especially like as they expand fifth edition with new settings, new rules, you get all these new races and subclasses and things like that. But especially the races, it's to the point where there's so many new races that we're gonna start seeing a point where DMs and stuff like that are gonna be like, yeah, no, that doesn't fit in my world. Like not every thing is gonna fit in my game, and you're gonna see those restrictions start happening. I think I'm already seeing it.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of
this
course.
is kind of a diversion, but I wanted to ask you, Sam, if I can. I've followed you on Twitter for some time, and I remember what really struck me were some of your drawings of equipment. I'm not misremembering that, right? Like you like to include kind of everyone's adventuring gear, and I think that sometimes gets obfuscated. I'm kind of curious, what is there like a particular aspect you just love about like envisioning the gear for the adventuring life, because you do a really great job of it?
I mean, I can't really give you any reason that I like to draw it other than I've always kept like very meticulous records of what my character carries on him, and like
Cool.
even little things that my DM might give me in passing, like a special stick or something, like. But I guess it comes from that, because that makes it more real to me. Like I don't want to track spell components or encumbrance or anything like that. But I like to think about, like, because I always want it to be kind of realistic in a sense. Like I always make sure, he has a cast iron pot for cooking, and all these little things. And so I guess it probably comes from that. But honestly, a big part of it was that people just reacted really well to them.
That's cool.
They're fun to draw, and they're fast, and people react better to the item art than they do to character stuff. So I'm like, okay, I will do some more of this.
It makes it feel lived in, right? Like when you think about the things that the characters would interact with daily to live their lives. I mean, to your point, the cooking pot, you're like, oh, right, they eat, right? Characters have to sit around a fire and cook and eat.
Yeah.
Like, it really adds like a level of verisimilitude, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really into like really role play heavy games. Where we do think, oh, okay, let's sit down now and make some tea out of this bark and go hunting before we settle in for the night. That sort of thing. I really like.
That's
that.
Cool.
Really, I don't know. It draws me into the game more, I guess. So. But I know that's not for everybody either, Oh, yeah. Not everybody likes these really.
My wife is shockingly murder hobo. So there's one
really, that's
like hugely so. Like massive murder hobo. She played like all those like 90s JRPG online stuff. Like I think she still may have a MapleStory account for wanting, there's your vintage dating moment.
Wow, yeah.
And so when we went and played D&D, right, we were doing some stuff, and friends of mine were talking about how they were going to get this and buy that, and if they were going to add these things, the equipment that they had. So they were getting into, that nitty-gritty detail of what gear do we think we need, that kind of role playing. And my wife is quite literally sitting next to me on the couch, because we were playing it over Roll20, because our friends, their parents too, and getting away from house for like 6 hours of D&D just doesn't happen. And she literally quite turned to me and went, when do you think they're going to be done? I'd like to go hit some things. I mean, there we are. There's the summary of my wife's viewpoint on role-playing games. Give me the pointy thing. Let me stick it in the other stuff. And so, when it comes to kind of role-playing a character, my wife wants to roll dice and kill stuff.
And
we're all about the role playing.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. I mean,
no, it's not wrong. It's just it was just one of those moments.
And I do like both. But I think my main problem was when I first started playing, I didn't know how to properly create my character. So he was very weak. I wasn't rolling hit points correctly. I didn't know you added your con mod each time. So like I was like level 6 with 25 hit points, and like I was a multi-class rogue druid when I really wanted to be a ranger and didn't know that, and it was a mess. But now that I actually know how to do it properly, make it the right kind of character, I like to go hit stuff too because I can finally and not miss or like
like
when you miss constantly, it's no fun. But it's fun to just go out and
we made her a lancer. We made her a third edition Cavalier Lancer and gave her a lance and put her on horseback, and she hit something and without critting killed it in a single blow, and there was happy dancing on the couch.
Oh yeah,
everyone else was kind of going, okay, like that Kira character, that one hits hard, and we're like, hey, I have done my DMing job. I have, happy player. I've done the husband job.
Yep.
I have a happy wife, and that's huge.
Yep.
And then
Happy
everyone
wife,
else is kind of
happy
going, and there's, what was it? My brother keeps on saying, there's two things you can be. You can be right or happy. Get to pick one.
Yep.
Yeah,
but hey, winning on both fronts, right? Oh, I heard a dad, so I'll be back in a second. I'll let you guys talk for a bit.
With that, I would like to do a dice giveaway because dice are great. And who doesn't love dice? I've got these, I threw a picture up on Twitter. They are gray and like a navy color. They're gorgeous. And I've got two sets, and we're going to start with one set. Because I love Dragonlance, I'm going to say type the word Dragonlance into chat and only type it once, because if you type it twice, well, you're not going to be entered to win. And we'll do a little dice drawing here, and we'll let that run for a bit and give everyone a chance to do the typees and things like that. And of course, guests, you are always welcome to enter the dice contest because dice are awesome. And if you've ever won a set of dice for me, you know I don't only send one. Never have, probably never will. I love to give away dice. God, I love it. Anyway, but actually, this was something that kind of popped in my head earlier today as I was thinking about the fact that all of my guests tonight are parents, and they're actually parents of relatively young children. So this is kind of I think a really fascinating subject because there are a lot of folks that play D&D or other tabletop RPGs that are parents also, and I'm curious about the what it's like to strike that balance of, I think a lot of us, maybe who don't have kids like myself, we still have a family, we're still married, we still have things going on that we have to kind of balance to be able to enjoy the games that we like and dedicate enough time to them to where it feels like we're still getting enough from it, but not being too detached from the family and whatnot. I think I'm curious because I feel like having children would probably add another couple layers to that, and I'm just wondering your thoughts on what it's like to balance your gaming and your role as a parent and everything like that. And whoever would like to start, Steven?
Sure. I don't know that we view it hugely as a challenge. We get the benefit of playing at home. So all of our gaming is at our house. All the streaming we do is in the basement of Castle Mac with real brick walls. And so, we start right around bedtime, a little bit before, and we make it a little bit of a special night for her. So she gets to kind of chill, and she likes, kids like when things are just different. So she gets to fall asleep on the couch, which is different for her. And, she understands. let's see, we get her involved when we can. She plays, certainly. We've played quite a bit with friends and family. She's written us some adventure books, which are really adorable. We've asked her to write some D&D adventures for us, and she kind of occasionally gets to watch some clips and see what Uncle Sean and Aunt Raven are up to. So besides that, you know, if Lydia or I are doing something, it's easy with one kid, right? Because we have 2 to 1 coverage, so it's pretty easy to just, you know, one person's on kid duty that night. So for us, I think largely because we don't have to go anywhere, it's really pretty straightforward.
Okay. Well, okay, that's got to be very helpful. And I'm what is it that I'm
as maybe a counterpoint to Steve
yeah,
there,
please.
Roll20 virtual tabletops, they were the godsend. Because, well, look, I've got my eldest is nearly 6, my youngest is nearly 4. The whole idea of doing gaming either means you have to have them somewhere where they can amuse themselves, which, put frankly, a bunch of 3 to 7-year-olds amusing themselves can go anywhere from perfectly to, oh my God, what happened to the house? And it'll switch between those in about 35 seconds. It gets worse if you add in things like dogs. And so, like, going around to a friend's place with your kids and just kind of going, kids, roam, be free. The adults are going to go do this nerdy thing with little figurines. It's going to derail you, whether you want it to or not. So a virtual tabletop is really handy because you just go, you know what? Kids are in bed. It's 8 o'clock at night. I'm getting the biggest tub of ice cream that humankind makes, and I am playing D&D for the next 4 hours until I'm vaguely comatose, and then I'll sleep and wake up at 4:30 when my kids wake up for some unknown reason, harass me, and then climb all over me to go to sleep. Right? Like that's how it works. Yeah. So virtual tabletops, they're huge, right? And thank goodness I'm in the part of Australia that's got the broadband network set up, because we were running on dial-up type stuff for a long time and ADSL for quite a long time, and so now we've got like fiber optic to the house in a bunch of places, but not everywhere. Insert politics here. Let's leave that where it is. But luckily enough, where I am, the suburb that I'm in has gotten fiber optic to the house, so I can get like serious speed through the internet now. And so running Roll20 is easy, very easy. And that's probably been the big savior on that front. Yeah, gaming with friends is just, you put your kids to bed, we'll put ours to bed. It's 8 o'clock. Let's nerd it up. And off you go.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I think virtual tabletops, or just being able to, you know, as I generally play theater of the mind type games, just having the camera and whatnot to be able to do a video chat with your friends and be able to play with people from all over the world, I think is opened up gaming for a lot of people. But I can see how that would be a huge boon to a parent, because you can, you know, it's once they go to bed, they're a little easier to keep track of, you know. Like, I may not be a parent, but I am an uncle and a great uncle to many people from ages of 35 to about to be born in a couple weeks. So I have a lot of experience with kids, and so yeah, that is usually the easiest time to kind of keep track of them and not have to worry too much. So yeah, that's actually something I really never thought about. Oh yeah, thank you. Oh golly,
I'm glad I'm past the crying, sleeping poo phase. That's
Never want to experience that again.
Yeah, that is the nice thing about being an uncle, is that a lot of times I can usually just kind of hand them back, and that, you know.
You mean you're past that phase with the kids or with yourself?
Oh,
Hey, so I have a quick question, Sam. Did you go to Gen Con? You're right around there, right?
Oh yeah. I live in Indianapolis, so.
So I remember I was there a couple years ago, and they were working on having a pretty robust option for parents. Like they had kid watch. Have you had a chance to experience that, or?
I didn't know that. That's really awesome. No, my son is 4.5, and he's very extroverted and outgoing and a little hard to keep track of in big events. So I have not yet brought him to Gen Con, but I'm thinking about bringing him to the family day next year since it'll be like 5.5. And
yeah,
I feel like that's a little more reasonable. But no, I didn't know they had like a kid watching thing. That's kind of awesome.
Kind of cool.
I get to roll the dice on the extrovert bit. It's weird. My girls will meet someone and go, "I love you. You're fantastic. Here is my entire life story." And then other times I'll be like, "I don't like you. Get lost. No, don't come anywhere near me. Where are my parents now?" And it's okay, sure.
My son will literally talk to everybody. He invited our cashier at the grocery store to our house this evening. He said, "Next time, come to our house," and he'll talk to anybody. He really will. He'll make a great DM someday. I really think so. Because he doesn't stop talking ever. Ever.
We know that. We know that feel.
Yeah. Oh man. Jeez.
Ooh. No, but that's actually really good information, as people are really, it seems the chatter about Gen Con is for people talking about going to the next one seems to be ramping up right now. Is that a common occurrence at this time of year?
It's because passes are going to go on sale in January, I think. So it's in everybody's brains now.
That's what I was curious about, because
that's my guess.
Yeah, it was only a little over a year ago did I actually find the tabletop role-playing Twitter community. And there's a lot of aspects about gaming, especially like conventions, that are very foreign to me. One, because I have social anxiety issues and things like that. I don't do crowds well. I want to go to one of these things, but then the whole idea of it makes me want to vomit. So I don't know. It may never happen, but I do find it fascinating, and this Gen Con looks amazing. I mean, really, just all the stuff that goes on there just looks amazing. But then again, I mean, I live in the Boise area, and there's not a lot of people here, but they have a little gaming convention or something like that at a hotel. And I couldn't even go to that. I was like, no, ain't gonna do it. So, I don't think Gen Con's in the cards for me. But, who knows?
If I end up at Gen Con, it's because Gen Con's paying me flights, because...
That's kind of far. That's a little far.
Wife, 2 kids, like 15-hour flight. That's a lot to be a nerd for a couple of days, and then abandon the kids to my wife in a foreign country, right? This is all sounding like brownie points to the husband.
Grounds for divorce, really,
Yeah.
Now, I did end up seeing a question in chat. Oh, there it was. So I will go ahead and just bounce around because, it's fun. Because we were talking about 3.5 and 5th edition, there was a question in chat about do you guys feel like there's a difference between the types of stories that you can tell, or that 3.5 and 5e lend themselves to?
Maybe I'll jump in first as the guy who's written their own game. So the thing about most roleplay games is that whether you kind of realize it or not, they're geared up to tell a certain kind of story. That may sound kind of bullcrap, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people in the chat who will just want to lynch me right now. But like each game is set up to tell its own story, right? You don't tell a Vampire the Masquerade story with D&D 5e, right? It's just not that kind of game, right? It's just not work. It's not really set up to do it. You could make it happen, but it's not really going to fit well. If you try to do that whole kind of door kicking dungeon delve thing with Vampire the Masquerade, it's not going to fit well. So, and this is kind of where it came to the thing that I made. I deliberately lent into lots of the tropes about the game that I made because that is the stuff I wanted to tell. So for any of you who haven't seen, and maybe I'll chuck some stuff up later, Beta Maxx X is a game that I made, and it's overtly 90s, overtly space opera fantasy, right? It's kind of like The Fifth Element, which dates me further. So if you kind of got stuff a bit like Ready Player One and smashed it into the Han Solo movie, that's kind of where it's at, right? So Ready Player One meets the Han Solo movie, smash those together, add in elves, dwarves, and magic, and that's this game. So it leans way into all those action movie tropes, right? So like if someone sits there and says, I don't know if this plan will work, and someone else turns around and says, but there is no plan B, then the plan works. Right? Like that's one of the rules in the game is if someone tells you, I don't know if this plan will work. We don't have any other plan. How could it possibly work? And someone goes, but there is no other plan. Then the plan works and we figure out how it works later. But that's part of that movie trope, right?
Okay,
like
yeah.
every, like take the, what is it? Trek Into Darkness, right? There's that moment where they've got the ship and they need to basically hill start the ship, which is the craziest idea. And it's totally a lame plot device. But what does Solo say? Solo say, we have no other option. We're going to hill start it. What happens if it doesn't hill start? We're hill starting it, right? Like that is the sort of scene that's meant to come up for this rule. There is no plan B. So I couldn't tell. I don't think I could really tell like that kind of Star Trek action pulp story with D&D. I can tell a bunch of stories with it, but I don't think the story would be as good or as nice or fit as well with the game if I tried to tell original season Star Trek with D&D rules. They're just going to crunch against each other. They're not going to fit neatly. But if I can find a rule set where that sort of story fits nicely, then they'll go. So third edition is still very grindery, right? Like whether it likes it or not, it's that numbers game. It's that. So you can overlay a big plot epic over the top of it, right?
Yeah.
Like you can go fight your Tiamats, you can go bring home the apocalypse, all that stuff, right? I wrote huge, epic, cliched stories like that. But still writing underneath it, there's a lot of that same trope of D&D, and there's also a lot of that just mechanical stuff that you would never bother about in 5th edition, right? You don't quest for a magic item because it'll help you hit enemies better. You quest for a magic item because it's cool. That's what 5e says, right? A Sunblade, you want it because it's cool. You don't necessarily want it because it's now a +4 weapon that hits undead very well, and right? So the mechanical stuff is sitting further in the background. You want it because it's cool against undead. You give it like it's that focus of straight mechanics has started to peel back, and that's a 3e to 5e thing that I find.
Yeah, I mean,
right? Like
I see what you're saying, and I definitely see what you're saying, but like for example, if you've played in the Curse of Strahd, the magical items in that game are placed there because you need them. Really, or they're going to be very helpful to your success in the game.
Right.
Right. And I don't really think of that as really being like, oh, I'm looking for like the sun. Was it the Sunblade?
Yeah, the Sunblade's one of them.
Yeah, like the Sunblade or the Amulet of Ravenkind or something like that, because it's cool. Like you're like, oh, this is going to help us defeat Strahd.
Sure.
Sure.
And well, look, I went through a whole Rise of Tiamat, Horde of the Dragon Queen thing for about a year, and the guy who was playing it, I could tell that he was driving 5e with a second E, first E mindset. It was way obvious. But we got through heaps of the game, didn't go looking for a magic item because it was a magic item. We just found them on the way through, right? Okay. if we wanted to go do something like that, we could have. We found a temple that was being dealt with, having to deal with some kind of a werewolfy type thing. It's been a while. I've forgotten it. I've got too many other stories in my head. We went off and did that because it was kind of cool, and we found a Rakshasa and some other weapons and some nasty stuff. And yeah, there was cool, there was cool fun and adventure had, and we came away with magic weapons. But the only time we actually went specifically after a magic weapon is because we needed it to bribe a dragon.
Right.
And so you don't go looking for a +3 sword because it's a +3 sword, and the difficulty of hitting things has now gotten to the point where I need +3 swords to be able to just deal with survival.
Yeah.
It's just, I went and got a magic weapon because the sword of shebang is freaking cool and it kills stuff.
And that is definitely true with the mechanics of 5e. Needing those weapons isn't as necessary for your success later on,
Yeah, and so it removes that mechanical element out of that story.
Okay.
You don't go looking for that arms race anymore in the story or as a player. So in 50, that's kind of gone. You're now looking a lot more at that big narrative plot. What's cool? What's fun? What's adventure? And so some of that gritty, I've heard that there's loot in the bottom of this dungeon, and I want that loot because it might have something that is better than what I've got. That thought process doesn't happen anymore, right? It's harder to bribe players with just a big pile of loot, to be brutally honest, right? As someone who writes stuff, just going, there's a hole in the ground over there. It's probably got cool stuff in it. You should go kill everything and take the stuff out. It doesn't float like it used to. You could bribe any number of players in 2D with just, there's a space and it has stuff in it and you should kill it to get the stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a 50 story, right? Killing stuff to get to the other stuff that's in the hole in the ground it's a 30, 2nd, 1st story. It's not a 50 story.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And
okay. Yeah.
right. And
fair.
Political. Yeah, big ass political intrigue and not ever getting into a combat is very much a Vampire the Masquerade story. And people will get bored in D&D unless they pull a sword and kill something every so often. You could go 9 months without an actual set of fisticuffs in a vampire game. You might.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, if it's the game that you're going into, you have expectations. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so it's that thing that the game makes certain stories quite easy and it makes other stories quite hard. Every game does it.
Definitely.
And so that's my thing on the stories, right? And yeah, stories in D&D. So 50 gets rid of that crunchy stuff, and so the stories you tell tend to be more about the big epic adventure-y, plotty, what's cool, what's fun, right? You kill Strahd because you're stuck there and you need this thing because you need to get rid of Strahd.
Yeah.
That's the link between stuff, and yeah. So maybe that makes sense. I saw Death by Mage kind of over there going, yes, furiously in the chat. So, well, I think we're on the same page on that, but yeah.
Any thoughts, Stephen?
I think that's pretty well covered, personally. So.
Sorry.
No.
But I saw Raven ask the question of Sam, which I think, especially given Sam's ability to bring an item to life, I would love to hear as well. Yeah.
What is the best magic item you've ever acquired in a game? Oh.
In my very first campaign, which sadly is no longer running, I got a really cool bow, a long bow. I can't remember what it was called. It was something really cool. It was called the moon bow. That's right. And it not only would deal an extra 1d6 cold damage, but would also extinguish any non-magical flame when it was drawn. And it didn't have it wasn't strung, but as you drew the bow back, a drop of moonlight would come down and form the string, and as well as so all the lights were out and you just see this pew, this drop of moonlight as you draw the bow. Oh my god, it was so cool.
That's awesome.
It was
Very
awesome, just with the
cool
flavor. It was like a shiny black wood with silver inlay of moons and stars. It's my favorite weapon ever.
Do you have art of this weapon?
I have art of it on my I did like an item sheet of my old character and all of the stuff that he carried on him and whatever. So it's on there, but it's like small.
Oh,
so
okay.
I might actually do it for my patrons at some point. We'll see.
Yay.
I don't know. Maybe I haven't done an item for December. That could be a good one.
Well,
that's really good.
You heard it there, folks.
Yeah.
Sam is Sam's a fantastic artist. I'm a big fan, obviously, and I'm also a patron. And just full disclosure, and you should be too. At the end of the show, there's a link. Or not there will be a link for each of the guests that you can check out some of their work, and that link for Sam is her Patreon account. So definitely check that out. Become a patron, like me, because she's awesome, and and I really hope that I'm not missing any questions and whatnot in the chat. But there are a couple things that I do want to ask specifically of the guests. And Sam, since we were talking about your art, there was a Secret Santa art exchange called the hashtag D&D art exchange. And you can check this out on Twitter, folks, going to hashtag DND art exchange. And you can see all the art that Sam is going to tell us about here. How did this come to mind? How did this get started?
I think a popular thing that artists like to do when they're kind of friends, like when you have artist friends, is you do like art trades and you draw each other's characters. And I think around like October, the idea just popped into my head to do like a Secret Santa among artists. And, I have a way for everybody to get fun character art for December, I guess. And so we set up a Google form, and I did it. And my friend Cody is watching this, and I have to say thank you to him, because he made this spreadsheet that matched everybody up randomly. I don't know how. So thanks, Cody, because
that's so helpful.
I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have been doing it manually, but he just went in there and wizarded it up. So and
Data geeks for the win.
Yeah. Back in October, I think I tweeted asking would anybody be interested in this? And enough people said yeah, and we had 100 something participants. So hopefully next year it's bigger.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I love being able to click on the hashtag and see everybody's art. It's been pretty great.
Oh, yeah. It is so good, and I definitely urge y'all to check it out on Twitter, because literally I'm a big fan of D&D art in general, but I really do love when something like this happens, because you literally get a full spectrum of artists. It's like when you're looking at a big page of Critical Role fan art, where you really get to see the whole spectrum of because some people are really digital, some people are very pencil or paint or whatever their medium. Then it's just a difference in styles, and getting to see all of it is amazing, especially as someone that where I'm not an artist in the sense of I'm not I don't draw super well, but I'm a graphic artist, and so I love art. I love art in all its forms, and so and that's why I'm a big dork who hounded you nonstop to come on the show.
That's why two of my favorite times of the year, one of them is the Visible Women hashtag time. That is the shiz. If anyone has found my Twitter feed and seen what it is that I'm following, you will find out that 80% of it is probably because I hit Visible Women in the last 2 years and just went, "Ooh, that's cool, and that's cool, and that's cool, and that's cool." Yeah, it's a great one. I think I found Sam that way before I did crazy stuff
Oh.
like plan to drive Kickstarters and stuff with her.
It
I
was
think it was
either
the
that
Visible.
or Drawtober.
Yeah, there's Drawtober and there's Visible Women, and they were just kind of like I think one's in August and one's in October, and they just seem to just kind of bam, oh, and oh. So yes, there was a lot of art that, and to a certain extent, art kind of still dominates my Twitter feed, at least on my end. I'm sorry for the fact that I shill horribly on mine to everyone else, and that you probably just see advertisements quite a lot on mine. I apologize, but no one else is going to shill me. But yeah,
You have to, you have to be able to sell yourself, and it's okay to
Yeah.
promote yourself. I personally struggle with the whole concept myself, but I've learned it's like you have to.
You gotta do it.
So
Yeah.
that is.
I just picked up the Art and Arcana book, and it's so cool to just think about
I
how
want
art.
that so badly.
No, it's great. How
I
art
want
is
it.
it's really, really cool. I'm about halfway through it. It's massive, but I love how art has, goes hand in hand with D&D and kind of always has, and how many
Yeah.
great artists there are. My sister's an artist, and so, I do a game with my family, and so she's always drawn the characters from that. And then, of course, many of my friends are artists as well, bringing characters to life. It's so cool and so fulfilling, and we love paying artists for their hard work. And so we've tons of commissions we've done of our characters and our campaigns, including a little surprise that I have coming up for my players tomorrow night.
Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
I've paid Sam for art, and I really wish I could have thrown her a whole heap more cash with that Kickstarter if it had gone off. But there was some cool stuff that was going to come out of that. And yeah, paying artists for their stuff, it's the biggest expense I have as a guy writing things and selling it. It's huge how much of it that is the cost.
But I think it's it is so worth it. It is so worth it.
100%.
I think, yeah, because like I know for like one of the campaigns that I'm in, we have commissioned a lot of work from my friend Jen, the Bat Clam, and actually I have a secret commission for somebody that is a Christmas present, and I am dying for it to be done. But it's like that's a thing. It's like you're like, oh God, I just want to see it and all this stuff. But as someone who works on art, it's like it doesn't always just it doesn't always happen. And sometimes you work with a really good artist, they're going to get really busy, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm so glad. And I promote the hell out of her all the time and stuff like that. So I'm glad she is getting the commissions. But I am really excited to see this. And I'm really excited to see this person's face when it is done, because it is going to be a shock, because it is unconventional. And, yeah, I'm really excited for this one. But with that said, we are, oh wow, okay, yeah. We've been talking and talking and talking.
We've been yakking a bit.
So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna throw out the second dice giveaway, because I gotta give away these dice. I can't keep them. I'd love to, but
Got these hot dice. Gotta
got
get
these
them out of my
I
hand.
gotta get them off my hands, because you know what? I have too many dice. I don't need all these dice. Let's see. What are we gonna? Let's a unique word. Sam, do you have a unique word for the folks in chat to type for this giveaway? Let me get in there. Whoops.
Every time you do this, right,
Oh,
I get that.
You know what?
Fifth
You
element
know what
in my head.
happened? I did not give away the first set of dice. That is hilarious. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Okay. Oh boy. Oh no. It's okay. It still has people. See, I can click it right now, and it says, "Oh, Lydia won that set." There we go. That was easy. Because it's still.
Congratulations, Lydia. You definitely need more dice.
I know, right?
The table over here is sagging from our dice.
That's okay.
We'll pass that on, right, Lyd?
So there we go. That's done. The Dragonlance one is done. Now I can go ahead and click to cancel and change the word. And what are we gonna change the word to, Sam?
We're gonna change it to glazed ham.
Glazed ham. Let's make that all one word.
All one word.
Yep. She did send me my first and only set that I actually own and kept of rainbow dice. And anybody who's ever watched this show knows I'm a big ass fan of rainbows because look at all the, look at that screen. It is rainbow. I love rainbows.
I'm just watching the chat fill up with glazed ham.
I love it.
So much glazed ham all over the place.
See, when you do that whole, what's the magic word thing, I keep on thinking of that scene from The Fifth Element with Ruby Rod and the Bruce Willis character, and he goes, "What's the word of the day? Come on, man, something big, something really cool." And he goes, "Thrilled," and then sits down, totally deadpan. So I keep on waiting for, they build up. Chewing gum. I should find a link to it on YouTube and let people see it in the chat. But anyway, this is showing my vintage as well.
Okay, and so with that running, so we got that running. I might need a reminder. I don't know, folks. I'm old. I forget things really. Oh man, I forgot to give away that set of dice. That's terrible. But when you have these three individuals hanging out with you, it's kind of easy to get distracted because they're fantastic. And, dice are great, but not as great as these people. So, with that said...
Dice are pretty good.
What's that?
Dice are pretty good.
Oh, no, dice are great. But not as great. Now, Andrew, you had brought up the game Beta Maxx that you created, and so, and you talk about how Beta Maxx X, right? Because this is there's a few different settings or
genres really.
For this, and the Beta Maxx X is that it's like the space opera type type setting. What my question is, what got you to now you did
make it in the first place?
You did kind of explain how it is different than D&D. You can't really tell the same story, and so it kind of informs like maybe why you wrote it. But really, like, where was the inspiration for this that really drove you to want to make this?
Okay, so there's two things at once. One, I love a good old popcorn action, cheesy, pulpy movie, right? Like everyone does. You get around at Christmas and everyone's talking about watching Die Hard again. Why? Because, well, there's explosions and someone throws, damn it, now I've forgotten his name. Throws the dude off the roof at the end, right? Like that's
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber, yes, that's right. Yeah, right. And so everyone loves that, right? Like that's a thing, right? Con Air gets a replay, even though the fact that you know exactly pretty much what's going to happen in Con Air almost every single point way through the movie, people still love it, people still watch it. And so there's that kind of action movie where you kind of know what's happening because you just should. So that's the theming type stuff. The other part is, and this is going to sound bad. I'm a serious nerd. Like I'm a chem nerd by trade. I can show you the chem nerdy type stuff that lives with me. That green thing here that looks horrible is a 60s style weight balance that measures accurate to like 1,000th of a gram. Right? I use that regularly. So I'm a super nerd. I learned 5th edition Shadowrun and went, what the hell is this hot mess of crap? It just drove me nuts. I had no idea what was going on. It just seemed to be everywhere. And so I went, you know what? We can do Shadowrun type stuff just with a lot less headache. And so I deliberately decided to go, I'm going to make a game that's kind of like Shadowrun, but it only does things in 2 different ways. And quite literally, Betamax, the whole Betamax engine just asks you to figure out if something happens or not by rolling dice 2 different ways. So in D&D, you roll a d20, you add some numbers to it, you check it against another number.
Right.
That's one way to check if things are good. And then the other way is to basically roll damage, right? So 95% of the time, you just roll the dice and check it against a number. That's D&D.
Yeah.
So for this game, you pick up a handful of dice based on your stats, you roll them, check them against a number. If you get enough that are bigger than that number, cool. If you maybe don't get as many, that's okay. Maybe you get partway through it. And the other way is to just kind of roll piles of dice against each other, which is a lot like probably what you'd probably remember, Steve, from the World of Darkness stuff, right? So if you played a World of Darkness game, it probably feels similar to that. If you've played Shadowrun, it would feel similar to that. So I kind of tried to learn Shadowrun 5th edition and hated it and went, you know what, this could probably be done easier, better, maybe another way. And so I sat down to make Beta Maxx X, and then I was watching movies and talking to people, and then a bolt of lightning kind of hit me in the back of the head, and I went, I know how to make a game that uses this engine that I've basically created, strip out all the sci-fi stuff and the fantasy magic stuff, and then make it kind of feel Cthulhu, Tomb Raider-y, the Mummy, right? Make it feel like that. And then after I thought about it for 30 seconds more, I went, wait a second, that's pretty much the same stuff that would make you be able to make it feel like a slasher horror movie in the form of like Friday the 13th
Right.
or The Shining or this other stuff. And so I went, well, I'll just write that as well. So the first game's been around probably in the back of my head for 9 months, maybe longer. Maybe I started it in January, and I got most of it done probably by the end of July. And then in kind of September, October, the other 2 versions just popped out. And they quite literally popped out because I figured out how to, in super technical terms, create a depleting resource system that, mirrored a bunch of other stuff without neutering characters totally. And that's kind of it. So in the Cthulhu one, basically what happens is when you run out of enough ability to deal with freaky stuff, you develop a psychosis, and your psychosis can then either cause you to do cool stuff or terrible stuff, and that's down to chance. Whereas if you're in the slasher horror one, when you run out of ability to stay calm in the situation where, the building is killing you and there's a dude that pops through the walls with a chainsaw, if enough of that builds up, then you randomly end up going off and doing something stupid, or maybe you do something really good. So like examples of the stupid stuff in the slasher one is you just might run off into the forest and that's it. Like you're gone for the rest of that little session. Or maybe you grab the nearest thing and you will literally attack the next thing that comes into the room, which could be good because that could be the bad guy, or it could be terrible because that's your wounded friend who needs help. But you don't get to decide. It's whatever comes through that door next. You're just beating it with a hockey stick, right? Like that's kind of the way that the rules work, on top of the rest of the Betamax engine stuff. And so generally the thing about the Betamax system is the idea that I don't have to figure out, as a GM and as a player, I don't have to figure out how I put the keys together to open the lock, right? So like take the old school skill system. If I want to pick a lock, I have to have the open lock skill. In this, it's more like, okay, I'm really tough and strong. I want to open a door. I'm just going to punch the snot out of it. Do I punch it hard enough, GM? Okay, door is open. Or to take a Beta Maxx X thing that happened from a little trial game, players that I had wanted to blow up a spaceship while a guy in heavy power armor was trying to take off. So one of them used his skill in computer hacking combined with his magical ability to interfere with electronics to cause the engines to overheat and blow up on launch. And I went, okay, so here's the things that you're going to use to do that. Okay, roll a pile of dice. This sounds like it could be cool. Do you get enough wins? You do. Kabloom. Which then caused the rest of the site to start exploding, and they ran to their ship and took off, which is again that pulp action space stuff, which is what it's set up to do. Like that's what the game is set up to do. So when you run, someone else was talking about some stories which is just like actiony type stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's what it does. That's what it's meant to do. Like the rules are set up to make you feel like you're in a Die Hard movie in space with elves.
Okay, that's that's very appealing. And as a person that ran like Shadowrun back in the 90s, like I
Yeah.
understand how clunky and crazy that the rules can be for that.
Yeah.
When you want to tell a certain type of story, yeah, I definitely can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I'm not trying to hit on Shadowrun as a general thing,
No,
but
no,
the
no,
fifth
but
edition rules were just like they. I'm not, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I'm not dumb, but man, that system made no sense to me.
I haven't really looked at it. I haven't looked at Shadowrun in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. It is definitely clunky. Now, Steven, I can't let this go without talking about Castle Mac and the fun that you guys have over there. And we've had Lydia and Raven, Sean last week, and they've all talked about their thoughts and their experiences and whatnot, and and the formation and how games are played and how you guys like to do things there. But from your experience as where you literally you run one of the games, you are a player in another, and I know that you guys have it's what's called Mac Marches.
Yeah, it's our take on West Marches.
Okay, and that's a game that you participate in also, correct?
Yeah, I'm usually producing it, so I kind of decided I don't want to just be in the background and produce, so I'll run it, and then but part of the price is I get to play.
Well, that's a fair price. So being as involved in all of that, I'm curious about because I know I have friends like my friends Quinn and Brian who run Soul Bear and stuff like that, and they run games, they play in games on their channel and whatnot, and I'm curious about the operational aspect of it all, because it feels like you have a normal job, you have a normal family, you have a normal life, and then you add games on top of that, but then you're also adding a lot of the, like you say, you're producing another game and stuff like that. How is that how do you find the balance there?
Well, I mean, it's easy. It's a labor of love. I've always enjoyed sort of that aspect of everything. Recording bands long time ago to now kind of having all the equipment. We have lapel mics now, and so we've got the receivers and the mixer and the whole setup on the computer and everything. It's just really fun to do. So it's easy for me to approach it in kind of my free time, I guess.
Okay.
All the free time gets funneled into the castle activities.
And that seems like it seems like it would have to, because is there really time for anything else though?
Oh, sure. You just don't sleep. That's the trick.
Yeah.
You give up sleep, you get more time. It's like magic.
And that feels like how people must get through parenting. There's no sleep.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, sleep is for the weak. I always told folks in my 20s and most of my 30s that I would sleep when I'm dead.
Basically, yep.
Yeah, in my 40s, I need sleep. I don't get a lot of it, but and it's very hard. Like the older you get, just wait, folks, wait. Okay, the older you get, the harder it is just to fall asleep. And of course, obviously, I'm rambling. But I think okay. I'll have to check on that a little bit later. So we have oh wow, we've hit the hour and a half mark, and I didn't even realize it. Uh, this was
It's because Sam's here, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's me.
So yeah, we should probably wrap things up here, as again, family, life, things are all important. So, with that said, thank you all for being here. We're gonna go around. We're gonna go around the virtual couch here, and have our guests tell you where they can find you or find them on the internet. And we will start on the end there with Andrew. Andrew, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
So you can find me at Twitter under Halfling Caravan. Like it's there above my head. That's where you find a lot of that stuff. I'm shilling most of my other stuff there. So I've got stuff that's available on Roll20 and on Drive-Thru RPG. And Russ Hapke, who's done some very cool stuff in the past, like sculpted dice boxes that look like mimic chests and all sorts of very cool stuff. He and his partner and some others set up a thing called the Gaming Geeks, and I sell some of my stuff there too. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. So Roll20, Drive-Thru RPG, Gaming Geeks, Twitter. I think I have a Facebook page that kind of collects the same stuff that I'm sticking onto Twitter. So if you're over there, you can find me. But basically just Halfling Caravan and look for that kind of yellow, arts and crafts, art deco, arts and craftsy kind of, caravan logo, which one day I may end up telling you the story of how that comes about, but that's a long bow on its own.
Awesome. And and at the end of the show, folks, you know how I have a thank you page at the end, and there will be links and whatnot, and there is a link to Andrew's Patreon, and his Patreon has all information of where to find his things. If you don't look at his Twitter account, which you probably already do, and if you don't, you should. Sam, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Okay. On Twitter, I am 65th Victor. I have a patron page that is just Sam Darcy, all one word, no underscore or anything. I'm probably going to be kind of revamping and tweaking the tiers in the new year, but right now I've got a lot of interesting rewards and things going on, including free magic items every month. And I'm trying to get to 100 patrons by the end of the year. I got 27 to go. It's pretty ambitious, but if you want to help me reach that goal, $1 a month is all it takes. And then as for what I'm working on, I am currently part of Uncaged, which is an anthology being put together by Ashley Warren.
Oh, okay. For
the DM's Guild. It is kind of a feminist take on traditional mythology and monsters, kind of from a, I don't want to say female perspective. There are lots of male writers as well, but it's got about 100 participants, 100 writers, and it's a collection of adventures for Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
Spanning like all levels. It's grouped by challenge rating. It's going to be really cool. It's incredibly awesome. There's so many neat people involved in that. But I'm one of the artists, along with several other people you guys probably know. So got that going on. And then sometime in 2019, I plan to do a Kickstarter for a combination art book / NPC compendium.
Cool.
It's going to be a fancy art book that is really gorgeous, and also have little blurbs for you to insert these characters into your game. So
that's awesome.
But I'm probably not going to run it until after the Retroverse guys do theirs, because I don't want to have any crossover going on. But
that's you know what? Cool. There's enough love to go around, but that is. I
don't want people to get Kickstarter fatigue.
That is going to be a big one. as
I like them, and I don't
Yeah.
want to offend them. So.
oh gosh, no, honestly,
But-
if Chris heard that, he would just like, yeah, he would put the brakes on it because he's a gentleman. He's a fantastic guy.
I mean, they're two completely different things.
Yeah, and that's just it.
So-
And like I said, there's enough love to go around. There's so many great things going out on Kickstarter and stuff like that. And I think there are definitely plenty of people that have these varied interests and stuff like that want to help and get involved. And
Yeah.
this sounds really good, Sam. And I know that
excited
I will be one of those people, definitely contributing to that
Yep.
Kickstarter for sure.
It's really hard not to like throw it all up there now, but I'm trying to take my time and make sure that it's really nice. So
Yeah, but that's the
Cool.
thing. And we were, I think it was maybe the second show we did. We had Chris and Jen, the Backlam, on here, and they were talking about their experiences with Kickstarter. And for anybody who's thinking about doing a Kickstarter, you can go to my YouTube channel and look at that episode because there was a lot of very helpful information. Because it just ended up coming up organically, and they really talked about a lot of the aspects of kickstarting and a lot of the pitfalls that they ran into. There's a lot of great advice in that episode. I think it was episode 2 of So Chatty with Snickle Socks and the Back Clam and Chase X Libris in that episode. So if you are thinking about Kickstarter, it's a great episode to watch because there was a lot of great information there, and I'm really looking forward to that, Sam. Not gonna lie. And that thing with Ashley Warren, is Jackie working on that too? Because I think he was telling me about something, but
Death by Mage
think
is doing
he's-
like everything.
yeah, I'm
I know,
pretty sure
he's-
he's one of the authors as well.
he's everywhere. He's a busy man, and still has time to help advise me with my Dragonlance project. He's a saint. I love that man. One of my best friends in the whole wide world. So, and Steven, my man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tell the folks at home where they can find you and what you're up to.
Sure. Easiest is right here on Twitch under Twitch TV/Castle Mac. We stream Sundays and Tuesdays with some round the table D&D with friends and family. A lot of fun, heavy focus on role playing. We really focus on the narrative aspects and try to make the most entertaining and most fun game that we can. We take it fairly seriously, I think. You won't see a lot of anachronistic jokes and things. We try to make it really well, back to that word, verisimilitude. We really try to make the world feel lived in, and I think that resonates with people. In addition, we've got our Mac Marches game going on, and that's sort of tangential to our sort of overarching meta plot that we let people join in. Wiley Hobbit there in the chat. We let people play. So if you're interested, you can come join our Discord and find out how to join us on our Mac Marches games, and they're a lot of fun. We've got some other webcam games. One is DM'd by our friend Wiley Hobbit there. We've got another one starting Monday night. So those are some virtual tabletop games we've got going on that are super exciting. And one other show we're starting up is the Adventure Engineers. It's me and Kelsey for now. We're going to start adding in guests eventually, a couple episodes in. And it's really kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of DMing and adventure writing. She's my favorite adventure author out there, Arcane Library, good friend of ours. That's about it for us. You can find us on Twitter. If you just type Castle Mac, it'll autocomplete to the entire horde. We're a whole legion of Castle Mac crew. So we just want to talk D&D all day, every day.
And if you don't find them, they will find you because, they're
Yeah, we go out on raids actually from the castle. We raid people and bring them back.
yeah, great group of people. Obviously, I'm a fan because I've had 4 of you folks on the show so far, and I'm coming for more. And I honestly, on a side note, Steven, I loved the Adventure Engineers. I really loved that episode.
Thank you.
do you guys have a sense of how often you're going to be doing that show?
Yeah, we're gonna try to do bi-weekly,
Okay.
but our schedules are just a little weird right now. So the next one's gonna be December 29th.
Okay.
So we'll coordinate on that again to make sure that we can have our power hour of Twitch television content. And probably the next 3 or 4 episodes are going to be just Kelsey and I. We've got quite a lot that we want to explore, and then we're going to start pulling in, other people. We're really treating it like a dissection of the engineering behind Dungeons and Dragons. So rules writers, adventure writers, dungeon masters. We really want to kind of focus on the nuts and bolts of it.
I love that.
But I think it's a lot of fun. We really kind of want to dig in pretty deep and kind of understand game design, but in ways that really kind of make sense for people, and DMing from really from that kind of ground up viewpoint, I guess. The first episode's on our YouTube channel, easy to find us, just Castle Mac. We've got it under a playlist. It was a lot of fun to do.
It was a lot of fun to watch, but I'm a big geek for, that type of show where, you talk about mechanics and talk about the how things are, the look behind the curtain type thing. Like, I love that stuff. I also love a talk show.
Yeah, they're always fun. One final plug, if I may. Tomorrow night, 7:30, we're playing our Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign, and I've got a big surprise for the players that you all will get to see if you're interested in such things. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So 7:30 on the Castle Mac Twitch.
And yeah, definitely be there, folks. It is usually a hop and chat and a hop and good time, and especially that Sunday game, some of just fantastic role playing by the people involved, and this guy here, he's a damn good dungeon master. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And so I want to thank all you folks here in chat and watching at home for joining us and hanging out, or even checking us out later on VOD and YouTube. You can find me usually on the Soul Bear RPG. That's twitch.tv/SoulBearRPG, where I play D&D Wednesdays and Fridays. You can also find me. There was something. Oh, that's right. Right now, I just have this one little show on a weekly basis here on this channel. But I am going to be adding content in the new year. I've got a series of Dragonlance one-shots I'm going to be running as a test for some conversion rules I've been working on. It's a labor of love. I know there are some out there. Unfortunately, I haven't found anything that has been totally done with Dragonlance for 5e that I think covers everything. It just doesn't cover everything. So yeah, I know there's stuff out there, but yeah, I'm taking some of the stuff I find, but I am reworking it because it is a setting that I love so very much. And I know there are fans out there, and so yeah. And if you are interested in playtesting, or just hanging out for a one shot on Kryn in Dragonlance, yeah, hit me up, let me know, because yeah, I'll be starting those pretty soon. I'm doing a pseudo test with the Threads of Fate group starting next Friday. Basically, the threads are going to Kryn for a couple episodes, and I'm running it, and Quinn gets to be a player, which is always good to see. As one of those folks that tends to be the dungeon master and, never the bride. And of course, I can't not talk about my shop, because it is basically what I do when I'm not here on Twitch. So You can check it out, sonerdware.com. And yeah, it's not just me. I've got some really great friends who are involved, like my friend Joy at Die Foxcorn, who's a fantastic artist, and the great folks over at Dumpstat Charisma, and the folks at Nerdy Point of View Podcast, which is also something that I am a current guest host of now. So for a temporary basis. So check out Nerdy Point of View Podcast. And yeah, thank you, folks. It's been a really long week. And I appreciate you all so damn much. And I will be here next week, same time, same channel. My guest next week will be at Peter Voss, at Katie Faze, and at No Medic. Oh my gosh, another fantastic panel.
That's a great lineup.
I am thrilled that people agree to do this, because this is so much fun. I had a blast. I hope you guys had some fun here tonight. And yeah, we will see y'all next time. And have a good night. Happy weekend.
Bye.
And we will bring up that